So let's be honest, who in the room feels like compliance is a never-ending cycle of peak and valley? The truth is, the volume of regulations is a real avalanche, like DORA, NIS2, EA Act, PCI, SWIFT, Cyber Resiliency Act. It looks familiar to you. We are constantly playing catch-up. For those I haven't met before, my name is Loïc Bréat. I'm Associate Director, Head of EMEA Cybersecurity Consulting at Verizon. And my background is not just a list of acronyms. My primary focus has always been on payment security, compliance, risk management across all major global frameworks. Today, I'm bringing that experience to show you the strategic way out, how to leverage PCI DSS as your unified compliance hub. Before we dive into the how, let's start with a quick look at Verizon Security Consulting Insights. Why should you listen to Verizon on this? Because we don't rely on theory. We rely on massive real-world data and scale. Look at our footprint. 450 consultants covering more than 100 countries. That means we see global threats, not just local ones. We are producing the DBIR for 18 years. It's a true industry benchmark for understanding how and why breaches actually happen. We've completed more than 20,000 compliance assessments since 2012. It gives us unique perspective we are sharing with you today. When we talk about leveraging PCI DSS to build a unified compliance hub, it's built on this massive foundation of global consulting, breach intelligence, and compliance experience. Now, let's get into the heart of the problem that all this experience helps solve, the compliance maze. But let's start with a quick poll. I'd like to get some feedback from you. By a show of hands, how many of you manage one compliance standard or audit annually? Feel free to raise your hand. How many of you manage 1 to 3 compliance standard or exercise annually? 1 to 5? More than 5? Yeah, I can see you. You know, it's the reality for many of us. So, you all know this situation, whoever you are, always the same familiar maze. It's each new rule, new update to a standard, each new law, it's all kicking off a new project from the beginning. Being compliant has never been an easy journey, and when you're up to speed, it's already time for a new compliance, a new regulation, a new law, or a new update. It creates audit fatigue, and it's also a pain for many of you. There should be a solution to this feeling of fragmentation. This is building a unified compliance hub. But first, let's set up the scene. The study from the latest Verizon Data Breach Investigation report says the initial step for bad guys to compromise a system or data is through an exploitation of vulnerability, of course. And now they are using vulnerabilities in perimeter devices. Half of these vulnerabilities were fully remediated and in more than 32 days. It's too much, it's far too much. And another interesting fact is that bad guys are targeting third parties to steal data. And the number of third parties involved grew up from 15 to 30% last year. It's massive. And we already know why all these bad guys are targeting your companies. It's because this is where the money is. They want to get a financial gain. So with no surprise, all the attackers are finding new ways, and it's no wonder we are seeing more and more industrial and regulatory constraints come into the play. Look at this slide. This is what you feel like every day, the compliance avalanche, an ever-growing landscape of rules. If we go from bottom to the top, You first have all these industry standards and best practices, like NIST, CIST, ISO standard. These are, let's say, non-negotiable best practices for a mature, sound security program. And it's all about demonstrating due diligence. Then you have the contractual rules, like PCI DSS, of course, but SWIFT, CSCF also, TISAX for the automotive industry. All these rules are set by the industry to maintain trust and operations integrity. And finally, you have all these laws and directives like GDPR, DORA, NIS2, Payment Security Directive, and stuff like that. They are all the big non-negotiable ones that have huge fines at the end if you don't comply with. And they are all here to protect your critical data and infrastructure and provide financial stability. So you can see it's not just one rule, it's multi-layered. Every logo on this slide requires time, resource, documentation, and evidence. So if you manage 3, 5, or more of these standards, you are all doing the same work multiple times, and the challenge is just to know them. It's not just to know them, but effectively managing them all. Maybe some of you are familiar with this curve. It's an extract from a publication from the Council about maintaining PCI compliance. This is the uncomfortable truth of fragmented compliance. It's unstable, inefficient, and dangerous. The peak is the audit date. You spend all your budget resource to manage the assessment, and the valley is the day after the end of the audit. This is where resources are pulled away, the focus shifts, operational maintenance of control is degrading, and this is the period of highest risk where the effort is minimal. Then the cycle repeats. Now, imagine if you layer this curve, which is PCI, with NIS2, it's another peak and valley curve. Then with CSCF from SWIFT, it's another curve. So you are constantly shifting from one peak to the next, never achieving stability. It costs a lot, and it's not real security. It's not long-term security. So this is a reality check. This picture is the result of the peak and valley compliance curve, pouring asphalt on the road over a small patch to pass the audit. It looks good, it smells compliant, but it's not compliant, it's just a cosmetic fix. And the raw approach is expensive and delivers an illusion of security. Companies are compliant on paper, but fundamentally, they are vulnerable in the reality. So how do we solve that curve? How do we flatten that curve? The answer is establishing a unified compliance hub, and we believe PCI is the perfect foundation for it. This is the real cost of the peak and valley problem. It's fueled by siloed team and a reactive posture, and this results in a huge duplicate like policies, procedure, tasks leading to overload. And ultimately, a higher risk of breach because you're always playing catch-up with immediate remediation tasks. You pay more, but you're less safe. The model is broken, and we need to build trust. And speaking of trust, we strongly believe compliance must be seen as a trust enabler. Look at the statistic from Vercana 2024 report. 70% of customers, they won't do shopping with a brand that would suffer a security incident. This isn't a theoretical risk. This is an immediate revenue risk. Compliance is really beyond checkbox. It builds the security posture that earns customer trust and loyalty. To truly enable that confidence, we need to stop the chaos of multiple systems. Let's look for inspiration, maybe from some classic fantasy literature, and yes, I'm talking about The Lord of the Rings. One framework to rule them all, one framework to find them all, one framework to build them all, and in a compliance office behind them. We need one framework that is so robust, so universal, that it can serve as that central binding hub. So which standard, which one ring of security can carry the entire burden of DORA, NIS2, SWIFT, and almost everything else. Let's find it out. Look at this matrix. It shows you the immediate return on investment. When we map all together major global and European cybersecurity frameworks, including PCI DSS, what do we find? Well, an incredible 80% of their core security requirements are common across all major frameworks. You are repeating the same work across different audits. The need for an anti-malware, strong access control, a robust path management, it's nothing new. It has always been best practices since the beginning. So there have been the foundation of a sound cybersecurity strategy for years, and companies should stop managing 4 separate security plans when 80% of the controls are almost the same. We should start managing one unified compliance hub. So, we established that 80% of your compliance requirement overlaps, but why is PCI DSS the best standard towards that 80%? It comes down to design. It's prescriptive, it gives detailed controls, not high-level principles. It's universal. PCI controls can apply to any sensitive data, not only payment data, like personal data, like confidential business data. It's robust. It has continuously reflected against the real-world threats with new updates. It's gold security. It's adhering to PCI, improve your entire security landscape. And it's designed to be verified. And PCI promotes continuous audit readiness. So these 5 points are the difference between chasing compliance and driving security. Now, let's look how we can build this system. Well, this is the 3 pillars of integrated compliance management. This hub isn't a checklist, it's a continuous governance cycle, and it's designed to kill fragmentation. It's built on 3 phases: define, execute, assess, and report. First one, define, is all about strategic compliance and risk intelligence mapping, everything and anticipating future regulation to eliminate surprise. Execute is the operational engine focused on governance and remediation with a push for automation to reduce manual effort. Assess and report is the validation using the continuous monitoring with consolidated metrics to ensure you are audit ready all the time. This is the strategic framework. Now, let's look at the 6 practical steps, your immediate action plan. First one is assess. You start by finding the 80% overlap. You map your PCI baseline against everything else. 2 is design. You build your unified policies and technical controls. You write one procedure to satisfy multiple standards. Centralize, step 3. You will implement a single platform for all evidence. You kill fragmented documentation. Step 4 is operationalize. You enable compliance with daily security operations. Then collaborate, break down silo, and continuously improve your plan. This matrix is your blueprint for taking one PCI control and making it the master control for all other standards. On the left side, you have the design. Everything is unified and needs a clear definition, objective and assigned owner, and a defined architecture and type. And the right side is the operational life and governance of your control. This is where the integration happens. So, implementation and operation, this is where you document everything. Performance metrics is really important. It's where the continuous compliance will happen. And governance is the most important place for the hub. It's where you reference everything related to your standards and the regulations you're eligible for, like PCI, NIS2, SWIFT, DORA, and everything else. This is the link that proves the overlap. And building these templates ensures consistency. It provides clear documentation for any auditor, and it turns your control compliance into a measurable business objective. Now, there's one question, because everything does not live in the cardholder environment. So we have to deal with what we call the scope multiverse. Most people start from bottom up with the systems, but we believe that's wrong. A top-down approach, because, as I said, not everything lives in the CDE. And the flow is really simple. You have to start with the business functions. Then you have to drill down to the supporting layers, like the technical infrastructure, with a strong asset inventory. And you have to identify everything that is shared between your multiple scopes. Finally, the control applicability. This is where you identify and you define your unified design templates to decide on which scope and or assets your requirement will apply to. Last but not the least, you have to identify the specifics, meaning you have to process everything that is linked to unique requirements that is not covered by the PCI DSS baseline. So the scope multiverse, it can look really chaotic, but it becomes manageable when you use this structured top-down strategy. Now, you don't need a multi-million-dollar GRC platform to start this. Even if you're not a compliance guru yet, you can start really simple, maybe with Excel files, SharePoint folders, and stuff like that. And this is, in your slide, your essential toolkit. Know your scope. You need to start thinking top-down approach with your scope definition document. This is where you have a clear inventory of your application system and data and people. Then your control mapping matrix. This is the most critical tool. This is where you define your baseline, here PCI, with all your standards, like NIS2, DORA, and whatsoever. Then you map everything, your technical assets, to your requirements. The third one is the control matrix to build a detailed unified compliance control card, sorry. This is your detailed operational blueprint. This is how you control each requirement per scope and per requirement. And the last one is your recurring control calendar to schedule all your compliance activities, like the scan, the audits, the reviews, on a single monthly timeline. This is where optimization happens. So you have to start really simple, and these 4 tools are your baseline, are your essential tools to build a compliance hub. Finally, if you want to go to the next stage and you want to manage this entire hub at the highest level, you need a single view, and this is our security management canvas. This tool is designed for compliance guru. It is for organizations with the high security and compliance maturity that are ready for advanced cybersecurity. It forces you to integrate every component into your including your business model, your security strategy, your operational model, and all your frameworks and standards into one consistent security program. And the goal is really simple. It's to ensure your security actions are always aligned with your value proposition and your risk management. So, we have completed our journey from the chaos of the avalanche to the architecture of the hub. Let me leave you with these 4 essential takeaways, 4 truths to drive security and trust in your organization. First, the avalanche is a response. It's driven by cybersecurity threats and the need to maintain trust in the digital economy. Second, fragmentation is unsustainable. The peak and valley delivers an illusion of security. It's not something you can afford. Third, PCI is your strategic hub. You can use its prescriptive controls as a baseline to integrate and manage your multiple standards, eliminating the 80% duplication. And finally, shift to continuous compliance. This proactive top-down approach drives efficiency, enhances your security posture, and creates verifiable trust. If you are ready to stop fighting the avalanche and start building your unified compliance hub, please reach out. Thank you, and have a good evening.